This is the PowerPoint for Chapter 4 and 5, Introduction to Sport Management, where we will be covering both chapters in our textbook and looking at management concepts and practice in sport organizations, as well as managing and leading aspects in sport organizations. I would encourage you to go to the forum section and read all 3 forum prompts prior to viewing and listening to the audio for this PowerPoint, as that will help you tremendously in answering those forum prompts and tracking along with this content. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to walking you through this. One of the first things we need to do is see how our text defines organization itself. I gave you the brief definition here that you'll find in our textbook, but basically what an organization includes is it's a social unit of people that is structured and managed to meet a need or to pursue collective goals, whatever those goals may be. All organizations will have a management structure, and that management structure will determine the relationships between the different activities and the members. There are also going to be subdivisions and assigned roles within those divisions, various responsibilities, and various levels of authority to carry out different tasks. Organizations are what you're going to be calling open systems, meaning they're affected and impacted by their environment. And one of the pieces in Chapter 4 that you're going to be reading about is organizational environment and the impact on it. And so in a couple slides, we'll talk a little bit more about that and look specifically at a case study at a nonprofit organization and how environmental factors impact that culture. As you can see, because organizations are open systems, they're affected by multiple things. If you look even at the example here that I've given you of just a snapshot of what you'll find on the NCAA website, all the different components and various aspects of the NCAA are in effect here. So if you look at NCAA as a culture and as an organization, that will include college presidents, athletic directors, faculty representatives, compliance officers, coaches themselves, sports information directors, health and safety personnel, facility management. There are a number of people that come into play in a number of roles and responsibilities that are within the organization, even if you're just looking at the scope of the NCAA. So it's clear that one person would be unable to perform all of those tasks and responsibilities in order for this organization, in this case, the NCAA, to achieve its goals and objectives. So by working collectively, all these different people, all these different entities, they'll be able to achieve what our text is going to call the economies of scope and scale. And so you'll read a bit about that in Chapter 4. A number of things that we're going to also talk about when we look at this chapter 4 and 5 on organization is we're going to talk a bit about organizational effectiveness, both the traditional and contemporary approaches, organizational structure, and in a couple of slides, I show you just, I wanted to make organizational structure and look at this idea of an org chart really personal. And since I was an athlete at the University of Notre Dame, I reached out to my former coaches and my catcher, actually. I was a pitcher, and the catcher on our team is one of the associate head coaches at Notre Dame, and just reached out to them and asked if I could have a copy of their org chart at the athletic department of University of Notre Dame. And so I've included that for you as we look at the reality of what an organizational structure would look like in the practical way of a department org chart. We'll also look at organizational design. Page 95 in our text is going to talk about 5 major parts of organizational design, and then also organizational strategy. What is really interesting in the International Journal of Sport Management, one of the researchers in 2003, Oldenburg, I think the name is, he investigated the strategies of 33 U.S. Olympic sport organizations and published his findings in this 2003 study. And so I thought that would be an interesting article if you'd like to follow up and read more about that in our text, but also if you want to get the journal as well through the APU library and just read about what he found when he started to look across the board at U.S. sport organizations in the context of Olympic Games and the strategies that were used in terms of their organizational design in that component. We're also going to talk in the text about organizational culture, so what values, norms, myths, symbols and language are used within an organization. I mentioned having played softball at the University of Notre Dame. There is absolutely an organizational culture when it comes to the Fighting Irish, and you can, I'm sure, apply that to your alma mater or wherever it is that you came from. Even at APU with the Cougars, there's a connotation, and there are some norms and values and shared language that we have as part of our APU organizational culture. And we'll talk also about organizational change. But lastly here, I did give you 3 links in this slide. The first that says, what is the NCAA? I thought it was really interesting as we look at just the scope and scale of organizations themselves. If you click on this first link here for what is the NCAA, you'll find a number of different facts and just interesting information there. But basically, the NCAA itself has over 1,100 college and universities as part of the NCAA. There are 98 conferences, 39 affiliated organizations, and those would include anything similar to specific sport organizations. I know USA Softball, USA Volleyball are part of that, are member affiliated organizations. Also NACDA, they'll call it, National Association of College Athletic Directors. That's going to be an affiliated organization. So 39 in total are part of the NCAA. And then also, the NCAA encompasses 500,000 college athletes, as well as 19,500 teams, putting on 90 different championships per year. And even in the headquarters in Indianapolis, the NCAA employs 500 individual people to run the organization. So as you can see, organization itself, just in terms of the word, but also the scope and scale of it, is just huge. So obviously one person could not make all of those things happen. And what we'll be exploring in the next couple slides, but specifically in the chapters 3 and 4 and 5 of our book, are going to be unpacking the different components of organization itself. Last 2 links I gave you there. One is for the NCAA Marketplace. As I was leaving college athletics and moving into collegiate coaching, I coached at Long Beach State and also a very small school in Alabama, University of Mobile. I often would refer to this. You can click directly to this link, the NCAA Marketplace, and it's going to list for you any different internships, job opportunities within the headquarters themselves, and also coaching positions, athletic director positions, compliance positions, anything within the NCAA employment opportunities are going to be there at that link. So I encourage you to explore that. And then lastly, just to again hit home this massive idea of what an organization includes, if you click on the last link there, the NCAA School Search, this was a really interesting resource that I have found and that we're going to continue to use as we explore just the differences between recruiting and eligibility and all the different components within collegiate athletics, high school athletics. You can click on this link and you'll actually be able to search for a school by name. You can search for a school by conference or division or even by sport. And so there are 3 different ways that you can locate specific schools or sports within the NCAA in that link there. So a lot of information on this slide, but hopefully that'll get you started as we continue to move forward in this PowerPoint. Okay, well, I am so excited to share this with you. I was able to reach back and connect with my pitching coach at Notre Dame, who has now been the head coach of the University of Notre Dame softball team, I think for about 17 years now. And then also my catcher in college, who has been the associate head coach for almost 10, 15 years. So I reached out to them and I'm so grateful and so thankful they were able to get a release for the internal document for Notre Dame Athletics Department. And they were able to share with me and agreed to share with you all, again, an internal document that is the Athletics Department organizational chart for the University of Notre Dame Athletics. So excited to share that with you. And a funny story is that I was expecting to get a 1-page document that I could just slide into this PowerPoint presentation. And instead, when I opened it up, I found it was a 36-page PowerPoint presentation of all the different facets of the university's organizational chart. So that being said, I'm going to include it as a secondary PowerPoint here for this unit, but I will give you just a real brief look at what it's going to entail, because it's been very fascinating for me just as an alumni and a Monogram athlete at the university, just to look and see what the inner workings are. And so for you all as well, just as a scholar, as a student, as a coach, as a potential athletic director, I thought you'd appreciate seeing the scope of this as well. So the slides will start from athletics administration as a whole, kind of the macro level, starting with the president of the university, and then directly below him, who reports to him most closely, is going to be the director of athletics at the University of Notre Dame. And then it will have all of the senior athletic director positions, as well as their responsibilities and the people who serve under them. That's the main first chart that you will see. Second to that, then it goes into different categories within the organization. So you have the business office, camps, and community outreach. That's a big piece of Notre Dame in terms of the culture of the organization. So there's a lot of emphasis put on that. You'll also see compliance and what that internal org chart looks like as well. Then you'll have a number of different facilities that you're going to see. One I'm going to highlight in particular. It's called the Compton Family Ice Arena. That's where the Notre Dame hockey team plays. And this definitely deserves its own PowerPoint slide, and specifically its own org chart. It's a 5,000 plus seat arena that was built in 2011, and it's a $50 million construction. So it's been around about 6 or 7 years now, and just a massive infrastructure at the university and a big piece of the athletic department. So you'll see the inner workings there under that particular org chart for the Compton Family Ice Arena. Then you'll also see the media group. And this is going to be probably the largest organizational structure that you'll see the org chart there. That's going to include everything from social media to print to sports information directors and so forth. You're going to see a slide on the org chart for the equipment, and then also a few different ones for the other facilities on campus. So the Loftus Center is our indoor football turf Astro field that, because we're in South Bend, Indy, I say we, meaning feeling like I'm still part of it, still there, but it's an indoor sports arena that has Astro turf. And because Notre Dame is located in South Bend, Indiana, baseball, soccer, softball, track and field, most athletes will use this for a large part of the year when it's impossible to go outside and play just due to weather. You'll also see the tennis pavilion, golf courses, the Joy Center, which is where the basketball and volleyball team compete. So you'll see different facility org charts within that. And then the last few things, you're going to see a ticket office, all the details that go with that, their org chart as well. And then two things in particular that I wanted to share. You'll see a slide for sport performance and sport medicine, and then a following slide for sports performance and specifically strength and conditioning. And then following that, another key piece at Notre Dame in terms of their support services for student athletes, you're going to see a slide on the org chart for student welfare and development. And then it will go through and list all of the different varsity sports at the University of Notre Dame and the org charts within each of the teams. So please enjoy looking through that. I hope that's a helpful resource for you. Again, it was much larger scale than I thought we were going to see, so I'm grateful that they were willing to share that with us here at APU. But please enjoy going through that. And again, as you're looking through that org chart, keep referring back to the text and just to have a better understanding of what each of those levels mean, what each of the responsibilities would be within those different pieces of that org chart and in that structure. And I hope it's a good resource for you. So please enjoy. I'm glad I was able to share it with you. So we're going to talk just briefly about 3 different types of sport organizations: public organizations, nonprofit organizations, and commercial organizations. Public organizations are going to include any federal and state agencies, as well as regional and local government departments. And each of these entities are going to be responsible for the delivery of recreation and sport programs. So I'll stop right there and just think about it for a moment when you look. If any of you have children, we have 2 young young elementary age girls. And we often go through our park and rec department in terms of signing up for youth basketball. We have a swimming pool that is connected with our local elementary school, and our kids do swim lessons through the park and rec department. And anything like that, if you have participated in any type of organization that goes through federal and state agencies, or as well as your local city or government departments, those all would be recreation and sport programs that would fall under public organizations. Another key piece of this is that public organizations, those are also going to be responsible for the maintenance of sport fields that you'll see at your local parks, arenas, swimming pools, and parks. And so, again, that would entail anything in the public organization component of sport. The second piece is nonprofit organizations. We are so fortunate this term to be able to hear from two-time gold medalist Olympian Natasha Watley. She's going to come in and talk a bit about her journey in athletics. She was a 4-time All-American at UCLA, the first African-American softball player on the USA team. Again, 2 gold medals, just a fantastic athlete. I think she also was the Honda Cup award winner for the best female athlete for one of her 4 years that she was at UCLA. And she is using her platform of success in athletics to start the Natasha Watley Foundation, where she's bringing softball and sport skills to underprivileged youth in disenfranchised youth in the LA area. And so she's going to talk a bit in our APU class about her nonprofit. And so we'll get to hear a little bit about lessons learned, some of the challenges that she has had, and also how she trains, equips, and gains her volunteer base for her organization. One of the other things that we're going to do in terms of nonprofits are going to be we're going to look, I believe it's on the next slide, we're going to look at a case study of a nonprofit organization in sport called Up and Running Again. And it is a nonprofit organization that is geared towards equipping homeless men and women to run half marathons, which is pretty fantastic. And so we'll look at that in terms of a case study for nonprofit, and we're gonna use that as our forum prompt in terms of the case study, and look at that idea of organizational environment and how the general and specific environments can most impact that organization. So keep your eye out for that. That's going to be connected very closely to our forum prompt. The text gives a couple other examples of nonprofit organizations. They talk about anything that's related to professional sport teams in terms of foundations that they have, athlete charities, and then even standalone foundations, some that are more well-known, like the Women's Sport Foundation or Right to Play. The third piece is going to be commercial organizations, and the main goal of these organizations is to make a financial profit. And so examples of this will include professional sport teams, sport equipment manufacturers, which are going to be Under Armour, Wilson, Athletica, organizations such as that. It's also going to be sport retailers. So think about Dick's Sporting Goods, Big Five, Foot Locker, sport-related services, and those are going to be private golf clubs. You can even think about 24-hour fitness clubs, things like that. And then lastly, it's going to be the sport broadcast and media companies. And so that can be anything from ESPN to Comcast Sportsnet, NBC Sports, Fox Sports News, anything like that. Those are all going to be organizations where their main goal is to make a profit. And those are going to be falling in the category of commercial organizations. So please read carefully through our text, specifically pages 86 and 87, where they're going to unpack each of those 3 organizations for you. Those are going to be important to know. Okay, so as we look at this idea of organizational environment, the bottom line is that organizations must deal with their environments, and environments can be both turbulent and uncertain. We know, even just from looking at our text on page 87, where it talks a bit about this impact of organizational environment, you can categorize these in two different ways: general environment and specific environment. And so I'm going to let you read a little bit more about each of those in our textbook. But what I'd like for you to do is, in the forum prompt in Unit 3, you're going to be able to look at this case study of the nonprofit for Up and Running Again, and you're going to be able to look through their website. I gave you a couple different links here, wrote a bit about what Up and Running does. It was a nonprofit that was formed in 2010, and its first year they were able to have 19 people journey from homelessness, both men and women and at-risk youth, to finishing a half marathon, which is pretty amazing. In the scope of 6 years, they've now had roughly 100 runners complete half marathons, and you can look on their website if you link just to the top Up and Running Again text right there. It will take you directly to their website. And right now, I believe they have different campuses or different rescue missions that they partner with, where they train these homeless men and women who are their athletes. They have runs, I think, that they're doing, and teams that they are competing with in these half marathons from all the way from Las Vegas to Orange County, I believe out in Ventura, in Long Beach, and then also in San Diego. So just a really cool organization. I've had a chance to connect with their executive director a couple times and also meet their founder and president, Steve Tierney. And they just have such a great heart for these people. And it's really a pretty amazing nonprofit. And so I thought what we would do, instead of just kind of reading the text and having a hypothetical environment to look at, we could look specifically at one of our 3 sport organizations, look directly at nonprofit, and then look at this case study of Up and Running Again, and then be able to address that forum where we're going to talk a little bit more about identifying both the general and specific environments that most directly impact them or could impact them. I did give a couple more links here that I wanted to explain to you. There's a brief video message from the president, Steve Tierney. He is currently a lawyer. He has been practicing law for many, many years. And one of the things that he wanted to do with his time, his free time, I guess, outside of his law practice, was to start and establish this nonprofit. So that first link there, if you see the VIMEO clip, that's going to be about a 3 to 4 minute video clip about him. And I think it's actually recorded earlier in 2010, 2011, when he first started the organization, and just talks a little bit about his journey, his process, how he came up with the idea, and some of the things that he's learned along the way. So please take a moment to just look at that short video clip. And then I have 2 more links here for you. The next is KTLA, which is one of our Southern California LA news stations. They did a news segment on the 2012 Long Beach Marathon, and also again interviewed Steve, and just he was able to share a bit more about the journey. And again, I think even that news clip is only about 7 or 8 minutes. So please take a moment to watch that. And lastly, if you have Facebook, or if you're able to link directly to the Facebook page for Up and Running Again, one of the things I'd love for you to explore is to go through where they have video testimonials and written testimonials of their athletes and clients who have come through the program. And so if you can take a moment to look through and just read or watch a couple of things. I think the video testimonials are only about a minute or 2 in length. And then the written text, their blog posts or their testimonials that are written are just very brief as well. But it would give you a pretty good scope of the work that they do. And I think all of those different links and resources there will help you better answer that forum prompt, where we're looking at the general and specific environments that most directly would impact an organization like Up and Running. So please enjoy. One of the things that I have really appreciated about this class, and specifically the text that we're using, is there's a pretty significant emphasis placed on critical thinking and ethics in the way that we're approaching sport management. One of your assignments that you're going to be doing is called Sport Management Career Interest Assessment. And I actually took this assessment earlier this week. It's called Export 2, an Expert Sport Management Career Interest System. It is a very, very brief assessment. but it will show you your suggested areas of interest, the particular jobs that you can look at within that field, job titles that may interest you, and even some of the responsibilities within those jobs. What I'd like to do is for another one of our forum prompts in this Unit 3 is to kind of marry this idea of this career interest assessment with the idea that's being emphasized in our text of critical thinking and ethics. And in doing so, APU, one of the things that is a cornerstone for them is this idea of strengths. And so I'm not sure if you have taken the Strengths Finder. There's a Gallup-Clifton Strengths Finder, which is what you're going to see here on the left-hand side, Strengths of Competence. And APU is a huge champion for this idea of finding out your strengths, discovering and identifying the strengths that you have. Some of you will be taking the Strengths Finder assessment in connection with one of your classes. I know in PE582, our foundations class in the seminar in research and writing, we have every student take this. You may have it embedded in another class. If you have, please use your results from the assessment in order to answer your forum. You do not have to retake the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment. It's an online assessment that takes about 30 to 40 minutes to complete. If you have not taken it, you can link to our web link there at APU, and it'll show you how to take that assessment. It's $9.99 to take it. And then I did give you a clip here, a hyperlink that you can link to see a brief, again, no more than 8-minute video from Dr. Keith Hall, who was our former director of the Knoll Academy at APU, which is designated specifically to empowering students, both undergrad and grad, with learning, discovering their strengths and being able to capitalize them in their athletics, in their academics, and in their careers and beyond. And so if you have taken StrengthsFinder, if that sounds interesting to you, please do so. That's going to be one piece that you're going to look at when you look through this lens of critical thinking and ethics, is really taking a moment to consider your strengths of competence. On the other side, strengths of character, that's another piece that APU will champion. And there's something called the Virtues in Action Assessment. It's the VIA character strengths. Again, there's a quick link to a video there that has some fun graphics and some cartoon, I think, images embedded in it, but it's a real catchy and easy video to watch that will just sort of unpack this idea of strengths of character and why that's of value, why that would be a benefit for you as a sport management leader to consider. And then also there's a web link there to the UPenn website, and it will show you how to take that VIA assessment for free. And in the UPenn website, they do have a number of assessments and things you can explore. If you choose to do this option, the strengths of character, I would love for you to specifically consider the Virtues in Action, the VIA assessment. And again, for the forum prompt, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to look through this lens of what our textbook is going to be providing you information for critical thinking and ethics. And in answering both your assignment, but then also so specifically your forum prompt, I would really like for you to consider this idea of strengths of competence and strengths of character, and how one or both of those things, whatever you found out and discovered about yourself in terms of your personal strengths, how do you see these things tie in to the results you received from your sport management career interest system? I find that should you decide to go into being a compliance director, an athletic director, an academic advisor for student athletes, whatever piece of the puzzle you decide to play, critical thinking and ethics are going to be hugely important for you. And I think in terms of finding a way to think critically and finding what your ethics and what your values truly are, they need to be authentic to you. And I think part of the way of doing that is taking a moment to explore your strengths. And so again, two different options for you here. You can do either or both, but I would love for you to consider how your strengths of competence and your strengths of character significantly impact the way that you critically think and make decisions, and the way that you perceive your ethics, and how you decide in decision making what is right and wrong for you, and how to most ethically function in the role that you choose to play. That will be the last slide for this PowerPoint presentation. I'm looking forward to talking with you more about some of these aspects and issues. And as always, if you have any feedback or questions about anything that we've talked about here in this unit or in your forums or in the assignment descriptions, please feel free to always reach out and either text or email me or message me on Sakai. But you're doing a great job so far, and thanks again for taking the time to listen through this PowerPoint presentation on Unit 3.